Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the stream so far. Today I'm talking to Emily Cook, who's graced us with her time. Hello.
Hello, it's a pleasure to join you.
Pleasure to have you here. We're going to talk through some questions and just ask general stuff about Doctor Who magazine, her experiences with Doctor Who, and the lockdown stuff as well, of course, which is obviously caught the hearts of lots of fans out there over the last year. So we're going to start just right back at the beginning. What do you remember about your first memory of Doctor Who?
My first memory of Doctor Who was actually seeing a couple of the classic series DVDs on my dad's DVD shelf. And I remember which ones they were. It was Spearhead from Space and The Ark in Space. And I remember my dad trying to get me to watch some of this old telly that he'd watched growing up. And I was a little bit scared of what this Doctor Who thing might be and didn't really connect with it at that point. So that was my very first memory. But the point that it became a really special and significant thing in my life was with the reboot in 2005. And when Rose came on, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And then I fell in love with it.
Yeah, well, I was similar in that respect. I was a bit younger, so I think my first memory was like Dalek, and it was just, I remember being terrified of that, and then I watched it like properly a year later with my dad.
Yeah. That was a great series.
Yeah.
One.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've rewatched it recently, and the more I watch it, the more I'm like, gosh, that did everything it needed to do as an opening series to bring in this whole new generation of fans to the show. It just did it phenomenally.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've watched it. I'm definitely in need of a rewatch.
Do it over Christmas.
When you were younger, who was your Doctor? Because sort of every Who fan sort of has their definitive sort of Doctor, or one or two maybe.
Okay, so that's a very interesting way you phrase that question, who is your Doctor? Because I do think who was your Doctor is a very different question to who is your favourite Doctor. And I have a different answer for both. I would say that my Doctor, and the way I interpret what my Doctor is the one that had the biggest impact on me was definitely David Tennant. Because that's when I was really into the show after that first year of Christopher Eccleston, who was brilliant, and then David Tennant comes in and was just exceptional, and we had quite a few years of brilliant David Tennant series of Doctor Who, and so that definitely had the biggest impact on me, and for that reason he is my Doctor. And I found it really hard when he left. I was genuinely that was my first, as you know, my first heartbreak was the Doctor and Rose getting parted. But David Tennant leaving Doctor Who was, oh my gosh, heart-wrenching. It was horrible. But then Matt Smith came in, and I must say, initially quite reluctantly, there were elements of Matt Smith's Doctor that I thought was like equally as good, and then he eventually became my favourite. So I'd say my favourite is probably Matt Smith, but David Tennant is my Doctor in my heart.
Honestly, weirdly enough, I'm exactly the same. I think just with that sort of thing. I think because Matt Smith you sort of felt like nothing could top David Tennant, and then Matt Smith comes in and just like delivers in that first episode, and it's just like
absolutely.
Do you have a particular favourite story from your like childhood, obviously?
Favourite Doctor Who story? I mean, all of it. Can I say that? Oh gosh, I would say I have a favourite episode, and I would say, well, my favourite episode does change on a daily basis, but the Day of the Doctor, I just love that. I find that such an exciting story, and I think it did everything it needed to do as an anniversary special. I love the story of that special episode, and yeah, I think it was a great story in itself, but it obviously ties in with the bigger kind of history of Doctor Who and looking ahead to the future, and I just thought it was so clever. So I'd probably say here right now, the Day of the Doctor. That said, I mean, they're all just brilliant, and it's hard with Doctor Who, isn't it, because it's so many individual stories and standalone episodes and everything, but it is just one big story and one big adventure, and that's why we buy into it, isn't it? For just the whole world, or the worlds of Doctor Who.
That's why these collection box sets are doing so well.
Yeah,
everyone just wants the whole thing. Yeah,
I know. I understand that collector's mentality.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In 2015, you started as a writer, journalist, and assistant editor for Doctor Who magazine. What would you say was appealing about this magazine, and specifically this role as well?
What was appealing about it? Well, funnily enough, it was always my intention to actually, in terms of a job after university, it was always my intention to become a teacher. I really, really wanted to teach. There's part of me that still does, kind of. But I was at university studying English language and linguistics, and we were doing some work on writing in the media and language in the media. And one of our coursework projects was to pitch some articles for a magazine and just practice writing a pitch to a magazine editor. And so obviously for me, we could do it on any subject we liked, and for me, being a Doctor Who fan, straight away I knew, right, I'm going to do Doctor Who. So I kind of wrote these pitches for Doctor Who magazine articles. Wasn't initially going to send them off, but I really enjoyed my coursework, so I was like, maybe this sort of work would be quite fun. Maybe I should look into seeing if I'd be any good at that. So I got in touch with the magazine and eventually managed to organise some work experience with them, and just had the best time on that work experience. And went back to university to do a master's, and then the role at the magazine kind of came after that. I'd got to know them, I'd done a bit of work for them. So what was appealing about it, obviously, Doctor Who magazine was the magazine I read after Doctor Who Adventures. Obviously that was the first one, and then graduated onto Doctor Who magazine. And so obviously if I was going to work for any magazine, it would be Doctor Who. There was just a role to be an editorial assistant on that, and so it all kind of fell into place, just very naturally and organically. But it was such a wonderful job to kind of do coming up university.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, yeah. In terms of Doctor Who magazine, the next question was, did you read it when you were younger? But obviously, I presume you did, yeah.
Eventually, yes. After I'd read Doctor Who Adventures.
Yeah. Do you remember your first issue of the magazine that you read?
Yeah, well, the very first one, actually, I remember being away somewhere with my family, and we were in a WH Smith's, and my dad had picked up the companion specials. Doctor Who magazine does companion specials for each series, and it was the companion special for series 1. And I remember him holding up this magazine, and it was just so in depth in terms of exploring how the show was made. And I remember just finding that really interesting and realising quite early on as a fan that actually I don't just love the show for the fiction of it and the fantasy of it, but I'm really interested in how they make the show. And I just remember poring over these Andrew Pixley archives about how Doctor Who is made. And so it's not proper, well, it is made by Doctor Who magazine, it's not one of the kind of regular issues, I suppose. But I remember the first regular one I got, I can't remember what number it is, that's awful. There's been so many, but it was one with Cyberman front. I'll dig out what number it is and let you know after the call.
Oh, to be honest, I don't think I'd be able to remember the number, so fair play for being able to remember the cover. So out of all the work, I'll do that again. Out of all the years that you've worked for the magazine, do you have a personal favourite issue that you've worked on?
Oh, no one has ever asked me that question before, and I really like that question. Let me have a think. Personal favourite? Yeah, of course. It would have to be issue 500. Which was, when would that have been? A couple of years ago now, and that was huge. We had a big party celebration for that, and just kind of realising, I remember when we were working on the issue and then celebrating that issue, the sense of just feeling like you're part of something huge. You know, the magazine, like the show, has been running for so long, since 1979, and just I felt like such a small part of this huge wonderful thing. So issue 500 was really good fun. We had free stickers with that one, which was, I mean, stickers, who doesn't love stickers? So issue 500 was a very, very special, very big one. But all of them, they're all great.
Yeah, absolutely. You've interviewed quite a few people over your time on Doctor Who magazine. Do you have a particular favourite interview and why? So.
Oh, favourite interview. I remember one of the first interviews I did with any kind of main actor in Doctor Who was actually Michelle Gomez, and it was at the Doctor Who festival that managed to kind of set up this interview with her and did it. And I vividly remember that being my first. I mean, Michelle Gomez is such an incredible person to be in the presence of. And so I remember that one for it being the first. But in terms of there being a favourite, I mean, Tom Baker was very, very special. I've interviewed him a few times. I'm very lucky to be able to say that. And he's just a very special person. And again, when you're in his presence, there's something quite magical about that. But I think going back to one of your previous questions, saying that David Tennant was my doctor, interviewing David Tennant was very special as well, because he was my doctor. So I really enjoyed that one. But the more I think about it, there's so many, and you know, everyone, this is kind of my approach to interviewing people, is that everyone, whether you're famous or not, everyone has something interesting to say and stories to tell. It's just a pleasure to have the opportunity to chat to people and find out what those stories are. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Jumping on to the sort of watch along lockdown events. So that started in March with, of course, Day of the Doctor. What prompted you to start these events?
Well, it was at the time, it was just before we went into lockdown, but you know, the world started to go funny at that point. We knew that things were changing and that a lockdown was imminent, and it was just really scary. If I'm totally honest, it was just a scary time. And I know that for me and for many other Doctor Who fans, Doctor Who is a comfort blanket, and it's something we use for escapism. So I just thought, well, quite like to watch an episode of Doctor Who just to cheer myself up. And the Day of the Doctor, as I've said, is one of my favourites. It's just such an exciting episode. And I'm quite I'm a fan of social media and the way it can be used to connect people. I think it can be used badly, but I think it can be used really well. And it always excites me when there are kind of live events happening on Twitter, you know, when there's like a hashtag that's trending and everyone's joining in, or if you're watching a live program that's broadcast on the telly and people are tweeting, and there's just a sense of we are in this together, you know. And so much of our TV viewing habits are now really individualistic because we just watch whatever we want on our own screens. So I just thought, I wonder if there can be a bit of an organised thing here where just some Doctor Who fans get together and watch this same episode at the same time, and we'll chat about it online. And I really didn't expect, I thought it was like not a bad idea, but I didn't expect the response that it got, which was just phenomenal. And the number of people that joined in was incredible. And then we did that tweet along, and it trended #1 in the world, which was nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
I think it was, I remember on like a sort of personal note, it was the day that, because I got a uni in London and I live in Newcastle, so like that was the day that we were sent, I think it was the day before we were sent back home. So I was a bit sort of down, like not going to see like mates or anything for months. And just to see that, oh, right, people are watching Doctor Who together, or like at the same time, I thought, well, I may as well jump in, I'll try that out and, you know, see what it's like. And I feel like, because it's the first time I've watched Day of the Doctor in like years or something as well. So just that experience was so like uplifting, I feel, for that time as well, especially just right before like lockdown was announced and stuff. It was, so brilliant stuff. How did you choose the episodes to watch? Like, what was the process behind it? Obviously, like you said, Day of the Doctor is like one of your personal favourites, so that was a sort of an obvious choice for the first one, especially with it being the 50th as well. For the other episodes, how did you go about choosing them? What was the sort of thought process, especially when you got about like 3 or 4 in, like continuing on?
Yeah, so the first one, as you say, was very much a case of we need the Doctor right now, and why not go for a multi-Doctor episode where we get as much of the Doctor as possible. After that, I must say, after the first one, I didn't necessarily know that they were going to carry on. I did suspect that if it worked, it would be possible to do more. But because the Day of the Doctor one was so successful, I did think, is it foolish to try and repeat that? Do we just keep that as one really special thing? I don't want to drag it out and for it to outstay its welcome. But after the first one, then found out that Russell T Davies would be up for getting involved and doing a tweet along because Stephen Moffat had enjoyed it so much. And yeah, it just became a case of, okay, yeah, this can work for other episodes. And in terms of picking which episodes, with these first lot of tweet alongs, it was very much a case of being driven by who was available to live tweet and who wanted to live tweet in terms of the writers and the stars of the show. So it was that combined with, I wanted to tie them in with specific anniversaries or events as much as possible. So we did the Rose one on the anniversary of Rose, on the 10th anniversary of Rose, and then the 11th hour on the 10th anniversary of that. And it wasn't always possible to tie it in with something, but it was just a combination really of which episodes go down well, who's available to live tweet them, do they tie in with anything? And I was always kind of several weeks ahead in terms of planning them. And it was also hard to plan because I didn't quite know how long lockdown was going to go on for. So I was like, how long is this going to have to sustain? But it just, what I will say is that the Doctor Who lockdown thing seems to just have this amazing life of its own. I mean, I'm trying to keep up with it. And it just seemed to evolve and happen really, really naturally. Obviously not without a lot of work, but it just worked. So yeah, that's how the episodes were chosen.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Alongside the watch alongs, you work with people from the show to sort of create short either animations or short like mini-sodes and stuff like that. Obviously starting with Strax Saves the Day, what was your thought process behind these sorts of videos? Like, where did that sort of idea come from to go, well, we've got this event, let's have something alongside it?
Yeah, kind of, the idea popped out of nowhere. When people were gearing up to watch The Day of the Doctor, a few people had said, oh, I'm going to watch that. Do you remember the intro that was in cinemas for The Day of the Doctor with Strax? And a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to watch that in the lead up to it. And I'd seen that Dan Starkey, who plays Strax, had tweeted to say he was joining in with the tweet along, and I was like, yeah, great. And so I just thought, actually, would it be mad to just recreate the intro and do a new intro for the Twitter watch along? Would Dan be up for it? And I didn't know if it was going to be a doable thing. I didn't know if Dan would be up for it in the slightest, and I just dropped him a message and he was up for it. I was like, yeah, great. And obviously it's Stephen Moffat's character, he's written for Strax, so we just wanted to check with Stephen that would be okay. This was the day before the tweet along, so it all happened very last minute. And then by the end of that evening, Stephen had sent this mini script for Strax to read and riff off, and we were like, wow, this is so good. And so we just threw that video together really quickly in under 24 hours. It was crazy. And it went down really well. And then kind of from then onwards, it just became part of the whole thing. You know, the writers that were getting involved, these writers are amazing. These Doctor Who writers, they always have more stories, and they just wanted to be able to tell new stories, additional prequels, sequels to their episodes. And it was just really fun, as I'm quite a creative person, and found that being stuck at home was difficult for various different reasons, but it did just it opened up this new world of creativity where you had to think outside the box and find new ways of creating these little Doctor Who shorts while everyone is still stuck at home. So that's how the idea came about. And yeah, I didn't know to begin with if we would be able to do one for every tweet along, but we pretty much did, I think. And yeah, really proud of some of the stuff we've made.
Absolutely. Again, speaking on a personal note, and I think on behalf of a lot of people, those were just great to see. Like as every new one that sort of came out, even just like expanding the stories here and there, it's like coming to the point where people are like, please just include these on the box sets. They're just really good. Yeah, I know. So in terms of that, this is sort of two questions in one. Okay. Do you have a particular favourite lockdown event, or sort of like tweet along, and a favourite video that went alongside it? Like, yeah.
I find answering the first part of that question is a bit like having to pick a favourite child. Not that I have children, but you know, you hear parents say, oh, I can't pick a favourite child. They're all my favourites. I love them all. They've all got their own kind of character to them, their own feel. The first one was very special because it was the first. but I think the standout one really is the Subwave Network Stolen Earth Journey's End tweet along that we did in April, like the middle of April. And that was just electric because we had so many people live tweeting with that one. We had pretty much the whole main cast, and Russell T Davies as the writer and Graham Harper as the director. And that was another one that trended #1 worldwide. And it was insane. It was just insane. We were watching Doctor Who with David Tennant and Catherine Tate that night, and many others as well. And it was just, I found that one really emotional. It just really hit me how connected we were, and how much Doctor Who really does help people. So yeah, in terms of a tweet along event, that was pretty standout, pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
And part two was a favourite release, wasn't it?
Yeah, the sort of thing that went alongside it.
That's tricky to answer as well, because again, they're all so different, and I love them all, and I love collaborating with everyone. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. I do think Farewell Sarah Jane was pretty special. And that kind of developed a lot from the initial idea until it became something that was actually released not on our lockdown YouTube channel, but on the official Doctor Who channel. Just because it basically had like all of the original cast came back to pay their respects and their tribute to Liz Sladen, Sarah Jane, and that one was really special. And yeah, get quite emotional thinking about it. But all of them, I mean, I loved The Secret of Novice Tame because we had a little David Tennant cameo in that one. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I can't pick a favourite. I love them all. Do you have a favourite?
Again, like it is difficult. I know. I really liked. Is it? No, I don't want to get the title wrong. Is it The Best of Days, the World Nothing Time one? I really loved that one. That was just because of the visuals were just fantastic on that as well. It was just like really striking. That's like this could have like came alongside the actual episode itself, like back in 2017. But again, like Farewell, Sarah Jane. Like in my uni house, there's people who haven't watched Doctor Who in years and aren't that familiar with a lot of stuff with it, but vividly remember the Sarah Jane adventures. And like I showed them that, and they got emotional, even though they've just not been following like Doctor Who or anything for years. And just it goes to show that it's even outside of like the main Doctor Who loop. It's like that specific sort of tributes type video was like hit a lot of emotional chords for people who have even just vaguely heard of Doctor Who, or maybe just vaguely remember Sarah Jane Adventures when they were a kid. I'm recognizing the face in that video and stuff, and yeah, I know it meant a lot to them, and it just I think there's them two stand out to me personally. Yeah,
that's really lovely feedback. Actually, a lot of heart did go into Farewell. Every single person that played a part in that, and yeah, and I'm glad as well that you enjoyed The Best of Days. I think that's another great one. And like you say, the visuals on that, I mean, Ben Pickles did that work on the actual show, and yeah, I just think one thing that I was trying to do with each of the lockdown releases was, for no other reason than I like to challenge myself, but I wanted to kind of up the game each time. I wanted to try and do something not just different, but try and make it better and more professional and more exciting. And I think that we managed to do that. And I must say that none of that was possible without kind of army of contributors that I was working with. It would not have happened without them. And all these people were giving their time and their talents for free, because we all found ourselves in this weird lockdown state. But yeah, just shout out to every single person that had a part to play in those releases, because they're all great, and I met some very creative, talented people to collaborate on with those. So yeah, they're great.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. You've recently started to do a few more Doctor Who lockdown events in sort of light of this sort of second lockdown that we're going through, as well as some music collaborations with Borna Matasig. I hope I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. Where do you see the future of these events going? Do you see it becoming a thing that might happen maybe like a few times a year? Even when COVID's gone, do you feel like it's something that could not as obviously regularly, but maybe something that sort of shows up a couple of times a year or something to match like an anniversary or date of something or anything like that?
It's definitely got potential for that. I mean, I brought them back because we found ourselves in lockdown again. And I did want the second lot of these tweet-alongs to be a bit different and feel a bit different. So I hope they feel a bit more fan-led. You know, the fans are deciding what episodes we watch, and by and large, it's the fans that are live tweeting and retweeting each other and sharing their thoughts. And so, yeah, I really like what's happened to it and how it's evolved. And I do think that it has got potential to be something that can happen time and time again. In terms of gathering together actors and all of that stuff, I think that was very unique to being in our first lockdown, you know, when it was really intense lockdown and everyone had the time and everyone was all very much in the same boat. I can't think of any other situation where you'd be able to assemble all of those people and get them involved in that way. But I definitely think there's potential for it as a format. It really does work. And like you say, and also going back to what I said at the beginning of the early tweet-alongs, I liked to tie them in with anniversaries or special occasions. So yeah, I never say never at all, but it's definitely it's a contained thing for lockdown, like Doctor Who Lockdown is for lockdown, obviously. So it wouldn't be called that, but tweet-alongs in themselves, I think they do have a life beyond this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's definitely good to hear. I'm going to jump to Twitter for some specific questions. Some burning questions from certain people.
Throw them my way.
So a question from Joe, just Joe, any old Joe, average Joe. What was your favourite piece of Doctor Who Lockdown, and who was your favourite person to collaborate with over these releases? If you have a favourite. Again, like picking a favourite child.
So hard. I mean, this isn't necessarily my favourite because they're all my favourite, but just to highlight another one, Revenge of the Nestine was an excellent little follow-up to Rose, I thought, and that leads me on to just praise the writers that I was working with. I mean, oh my gosh, I just sort of just remember, like, all of them keep popping into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that one. I've just remembered Rory's story as well, you know, when we got Arthur Darvill back for another little piece of Rory, and that was collaborating with Neil Gaiman, so that was amazing. And Russell T Davies and Stephen were both amazing because they provided content for several of the releases that we did. In terms of other people to collaborate on, I think I should definitely give a shout out to Jake Dudman, because he was involved in several of those pieces actually from the very beginning. He was really supportive and was helping with some of the setting up YouTube, and yeah, he was just kind of there throughout and worked on several of the pieces. So he was great to collaborate with. But everyone, you know, Rob Baines is someone else that I did a couple of releases with. He did the VFX on the Doctors Assemble release, and also, oh my gosh, I've just remembered Pompadour as well. That's another highlight for me. The follow-up to The Girl in the Fireplace. Yeah. Rob also did the VFX on that, on the spaceship, and I was very, very proud of that one. I think that one came together really well. I could keep talking through all of them and highlight everyone, but I'm not sure. I don't know how long. We have got 12 hours to fill. Yes. I think that's probably enough of an answer to that question. I could go on there.
From Cyberplanner1, what's your favourite bit of weird Doctor Who trivia? That's a very Doctor Who fan question, isn't it? I mean,
weird Doctor Who trivia. Okay, I will answer that, but can I come back to that? I'm going to keep thinking about what my weird Doctor Who trivia is. Okay, leave that one with me. I'm thinking.
From Ryan M. Tempest, what's the best way for an aspiring creative to get involved in the world of Doctor Who?
Oh, I'm assuming that's because he is an aspiring creative person that wants to get involved in the world of Doctor Who.
Maybe he's asking for a friend, who knows?
Well, either way, whatever the motivation for the question, I would say whatever it is you want to create, just create it. Just make it and put it out there. That's the best way to do it, rather than kind of talk about what you want to do or talk about your hopes and dreams. I'd say talk about that as well, because you never know who you're going to be talking to, and you might be able to network with these people. But the best way of showing what you can do is to just do it. So that's it. That's my advice, really. Just get it out there, and also we're really lucky to have the kind of online platforms that we do, because we have a ready-made way of being able to show our work. I guess the tricky thing is, how do you get it to stand out when there's so much stuff out there? But you know what, if you're good at what you do, then believe in that and put it out there, and there will, if it is good, someone will, and I'm sure it is, I'm sure it's great, there will be hopefully someone whose eye it catches, and you just never know who might see your work.
I'll take that on board as well.
Please do.
From Joshua Duffy, what's your favourite Doctor Who memory?
Oh, Who memory. These questions are so tough because there's so many. I think I'm going to go with my very first Doctor Who memory of watching Rose, and just the impact that left on me. I remember the episode ending and just being like, wow, what was that? And how do I watch more? And just being so excited by it. So that's my first proper Doctor Who memory, and I think it's your first one always stays with you. So I think that is a favourite. But then I also should mention my first kind of few days doing work experience at Doctor Who magazine. I remember really vividly. I remember walking to the office, and I think I was listening to like Clara's theme on my on my headphones, just to get me in the Doctor Who mood. And I just remember feeling so excited about coming into contact with the people that made this magazine that I love. And so that was that's more of a professional kind of connection with the show, but it was still very exciting, special.
Absolutely. From Zisco Lozano, that's a hell of a name.
Great name.
It says, has she produced any more Big Finish than what's already been announced? And is she going to become more involved producing regularly in the company going forward? If you can say anything about that.
I think it's probably okay to say that I am working on various Big Finish. Can't really say what they are, but there have been several ideas that have been in discussion. Some are getting started, some are still in discussion. But yes, there's definitely more than what's been announced already, and it's just wonderful to be working for them, because Big Finish are as lovely as they come across. I can't really give any more detail on that one, but it's
that's totally fine.
Stuff.
We've got another side question about the whole Big Finish thing from Mr. TARDIS Reviews. Can Emily break down what her producer role entails at Big Finish, especially as she's coming on board at the very end of the monthly range to take us forward into what's next for the audio stories?
Yeah, I found it really funny. The very first one that I was working on is the end of this kind of main monthly range, and I kind of just nip in at the very, very end to co-produce. I would say I'm still learning. I'm still getting to grips with what a producer role is for Big Finish. I'd say, it's generally speaking, the way I see a producer, they're the super glue to a project. They kind of oversee the whole thing. They're there right at the very beginning, at the conception of the idea, and they see it through to the end, to the point where you've got a finished product and want to get it out there. So in terms of kind of what it involves, it's a lot of kind of just keeping on top of things and being very organised, lots of emails, of coordinating people. There's the creative side of it as well, in terms of seeing how the story or series arc is going to map out, and just overseeing that, and making sure that the scripts are written and delivered in time, and then with the actors in time, and then assembling everyone for recording, and then the post-production stages. So it really is just being a facilitator and making sure that everything happens creatively and practically as well. But I'm still learning, and I think every producer is different in their approach, but essentially you just kind of have to be across everything, be the super glue, hold something together.
Absolutely. From HT Scarapa, back to the tweet-alongs, which of the tweet-alongs would you say was the most challenging to organise? If there was one. That was like, yeah.
I mean, probably the Subwave Network one, just because of the number of people that were involved in that. Towards the end, it became a case of once you'd got enough of the kind of key cast involved, it was then easy because the others wanted to be involved as well. And actually, that's the thing to say, as the tweet-alongs went along, people had started to hear about them, and it took less explaining. People knew what it was about and were happy to get involved. So yeah, probably that one, just because of the number of people that were involved.
Absolutely. From Andrew on CR, what was your reaction to Stephen Moffat providing his very first draft script for Blink?
Wow, that was very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah, he told me that he wanted to send it, but it was in a format that he couldn't open, so he was going to go and see if he could find a way to access the file, and he did, and then popped into my inbox while I was in Tesco's. Actually, I saw that the email came in. I was just doing my shopping, and I was like, oh, there's a Stephen Moffat script in my inbox. Quick, get home, read it. And that was very exciting. Yeah, I read it through, and then just Stephen wanted to share it with everyone, and I wanted to share it with everyone as quickly as I could, because I just wanted everyone else to get to read it. And yeah, I just remember being really excited, because Blink is an episode we know really well, isn't it? Because it's so good. We've all seen it many times, so you're quite familiar with what was different in that version of the script. And yeah, it's fascinating to see, and to see the process of how a script evolves, and see that one at its early stage. So yeah, I was very excited, and it was just wonderful of Stephen to share that, share an early piece of his work. He didn't have to do that at all, but these showrunners are wonderful, kind, brilliant people, and I think the act of him wanting to share that, and the fact that they got involved with the tweet-alongs in the first place, just goes to show how great they are and how much they really care about Doctor Who and the fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
From Liam Grabwell, if you were to star in a Doctor Who Big Finish audio, which Doctor would you like to star with the most?
Probably David Tennant or Matt Smith. I can't pick. I would gladly take either of them. I mean, both would be better, but I'd be happy with either.
A very fair answer. I'd probably be exactly the same. From Tweeting Cosplayer, you can do a tweet along with anyone involved in Doctor Who, living or dead. Who is it and which episode is it?
I mean, amazingly, some of the kind of big dreams that I might have about that have actually happened. I mean, I'd say, it'd be great if we got Matt Smith on Twitter, and we did, and that was super exciting. But anyone living or dead, I think I'm going to say it would be. Wouldn't it be fascinating to do a tweet along with Tom Baker? Just to hear his insights, and he would just be witty and hilarious all the way through. So I'd say in this kind of dream hypothetical scenario, tweet along with Tom Baker would be really, really fun, and I'd let him pick which episode. Genesis of the Daleks is an obvious one to say, but it'd be fun to see what Tom wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And to sort of just to make sure I've got all the right ones. One from Doctor Who Space. She might not know the answer, but I'd be interested to know if there are or were any plans to relaunch Doctor Who Adventures magazines properly. Because apparently there was a one-off issue last year, and I'm just interested in that, if you know anything about that.
I have no answer to that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
No, it's a bigger thing that would be a Panini thing, and Panini being the publisher of Doctor Who Adventures and Doctor Who Magazine, I've got no answer to that at all, I'm afraid. I'm very sorry. And
we'll finish on a bit of a strange one, because why not? From Who Pottervian, a sentient jelly baby walks into a bar. Do you eat it? and ignore its screams as it's eaten alive? Or do you share a drink and make a new acquaintance?
I'm not going to eat the sentient jelly baby. It sounds a bit cruel. If it can feel, which I presume it can because it's sentient. There's no way I'm going to eat that jelly baby. No, nuh-uh. I'd have a drink with it. I mean, that's a mad question. For that reason, I like it, but
absolutely,
hopefully, it's not a decision I'm ever going to have to make.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about that trivia, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm still trying
to go back to that one. Yeah.
Trivia.
Weird bit of Doctor Who trivia.
Well, this isn't really trivia as such, but I will share this. When I did my work experience Doctor Who magazine, the lovely Louise Jameson, who played Leela with the Fourth Doctor, I actually stayed with her while I was doing my work experience because she lives not too far away from where the Doctor Who magazine offices are, and she was incredibly kind to me. And I remember I was staying over and came home from the office and found a Robot of Death mask on my pillow.
Oh wow!
I'm not sure if she put it there or if there was someone else staying there as well. But I just remember coming in and seeing this Robot of Death mask lying on my pillow. And I think it was an actual one from the show as well.
Wow.
I just remember thinking, this is nuts. It's not trivia, but it's a fun little story.
Oh no, that'll definitely do. Is there anything sort of coming up throughout December and obviously the new year that you want to sort of talk about, promote, or anything like that? Because obviously there's people watching. If you want people to know about anything that's coming up.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can. I can definitely share that the tweet-alongs will continue into December. There'll be a few more wintry Christmas themed tweet-alongs to lead us up into Christmas. So there's that to look forward to. In terms of the new year, I don't know. One thing that this year has taught me is that you can't really plan too far ahead, because you don't know what's around the corner. You know, life is so unpredictable. We might be in a lockdown. We might be in goodness knows what tier. What do these tiers even mean? Who understands? I don't know. So it's hard to kind of predict and plan things. But there'll be more issues of Doctor Who magazine. We're working very far ahead at the moment on the January issue for that. So there's that to come. But yeah, other than that, just trying to do life as best as we all.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat with that, I suppose. Yeah,
we really are.
Anyway, yes, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks so much for giving your time up to talk about all things Doctor Who and the magazine and the tweet-alongs and all that sort of thing. Really appreciate it. And
it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Can I just say, people watching, I don't know how much you're going to badger them to donate. This is a fundraiser, and I just applaud fundraising of any kind, and I think it's amazing when people actually like get off their backside and do something and have a passion and want to make a difference. And so I just think, if you're watching this and you haven't donated yet, what are you doing? Make a donation. Like, honestly, even if it's just £1, or like, I don't know, a cup of coffee is what, like £2.50. Just the price of a cup of coffee is gonna make such a difference to this cause. So just donate if you can. I know it's tight for a lot of people at the moment. I know times are hard, but you know, I think work like this that George is doing should be rewarded and applauded, and it can be rewarded in the form of a donation. So yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's a pleasure.